In my experiments in the realm of ultra budget $5 decks, I think Kindred decks come together the easiest and cheaply. Let's start with my favorite Kindred deck, Zombies. The real question is, which commander will I choose for this ultra budget Kindred deck? I'm choosing Josu Vess, Lich Knight. This Knight comes in as a 4/5 for 4 mana, but has a 6 mana kicker that's going to give us 8 2/2 Black Knight zombie creature tokens with Menace. There really isn't much to say about this commander. It's not an insane value engine, but it can give you a big push at the end of the game to win it. I'm going to break this deck tech down into 4 parts. The first part's going to be our sacrifice outlets, our second part's going to be reviving zombies, our third part's going to be the zombies in general, and our final part is all the lords we're going to use to buff them up. Our first sacrifice outlet is Gnawing Zombie. This 2 mana 1/3 lets us sacrifice our zombies to deal damage to our opponents. That way if the board state gets clogged, we can still get some damage in. Our next sacrifice outlet's a 2-parter, Functional Reprints for the win. It's Nantuko Husk and Phyrexian Ghoul. They're pretty much the same card. You can sacrifice a creature to give them +2/+2 until end of turn. It may cost a lot to use Spark Reaper's ability, but it's going to let us draw cards and gain a little bit of life every time we sacrifice a creature. Transmogrian Altar is going to let us sacrifice our little zombie friends to give us a mana advantage, and we can turn those other creatures into bigger artifact creature zombies. Vampiric Rites is a little less expensive to use. It only costs 2 mana to sacrifice a creature to gain some life and get a new card in hand. Now that we've sacrificed all of our zombies, what are we going to do now? We don't have a board presence. We're going to revive those zombies and bring them back to our hand or the battlefield. Braid's Frightful Return does a lot for us. 1, it can let us sacrifice our creatures to make opponents lose cards. 2, it can bring a creature back to our hand. And 3, it can give us a little bit of card advantage. Cruel Revival is going to let us blow up one of our opponent's non-zombie creatures and get us a zombie back from the graveyard to our hand. We call that a 2-for-1. Fell Horseman's an adventure card that gives us Raise Dead on one side and a 3/3 zombie on the other. Ghoul Razor adds a little bit of excitement to the game because it lets us return a zombie card at random from our graveyard to our hand. Random is fun. Gravedigger's a true OG. This card's been around forever. It's a 4/4 for 2 mana that lets us return a creature card from our graveyard to our hand when it ETBs. Rise from the Graves our budget reanimate. It does the same thing but for 5 mana, and it makes that creature a zombie when it comes under our control. Now that we've went through all the ways to bring our creatures back from the graveyard, let's get into the most fun part of this deck tech, the zombies. Dregscape Zombie is just a vanilla 2/1 with Unearth. That means we can bring it back to sack it again. Value. Once again, we have 2 cards that fulfill a similar role, Festering Goblin and Shambling Goblin. When they go to the bin, something's going to get -1/-1 until end of turn. Grixis Driver gives us 2/2 zombie bodies when it leaves the battlefield, and it has Unearth, so that means we can do it all over again. Lazotep Reaver is just a little zombie that comes in with a buddy, and that buddy also happens to be a zombie army token. Nested Ghoul's an overcosted 4/2 for 5 mana, but when it takes damage, we're going to get a 2/2 zombie token. I would assume that Morgan from MTG North loves Nested Shambler. This 1/1 zombie gives us squirrels when it dies, and everybody needs a squirrel token in their deck. Overseer of the Dam destroys a creature when it ETBs, and every time a non-token creature an opponent controls dies, we get a zombie token. Siphon Flesh will make all of our opponents sacrifice a creature, and we get a 2/2 zombie for each creature sacrificed this way. Removal and zombies, call that synergy. Unshakable Tale's a new one. It's a 3 mana 3/2 that makes us clues, and it also lets us surveil to give us that card selection. Our last zombie is Withered Wretch. This little 2/2 is going to let us exile cards from graveyards. It's a little scavenging ooze in black. Now that we've made a massive army of undead like any good necromancer would, it's time to buff them up and get that combat damage in. A Cursed Horde is going to make combat a no-brainer for our deck. It's going to give a target attacking zombie indestructible, so we won't lose it during combat. Archghoul of Thraben is going to give us a bonus every time it or another zombie dies. It's going to let us look at the top card of our library, and if it's a zombie, we get to put it into our hand. Death Priest or Merkle may be a Tiefling Cleric, but it really cares about zombies. It's going to buff them by +1/+1, and if something dies, we can pay 1 and get a little skeleton guy. Gorex, the Tomb Show, may not be a lord per se, but it is a legendary creature, and that gives it some lordly status in my eyes. It's going to make it cheaper by exiling cards, and we get those exiled cards back when Gorex dies. Gravespawn Sovereign definitely wins the award for the best art in this deck. It's a lord that lets us tap zombies to put creature cards out of graveyards onto the battlefield under our control. Liliana's Devotee is going to give our zombies a power boost, and at our end step, if a creature died this turn, we can pay 2 mana to get a 2/2 zombie. Liliana's Mastery is an enchantment that's going to buff all of our zombies, and it comes in with 2 little friends, and those friends are zombies. Lord of the Accursed is going to buff all of our zombies up, and it can let all of our zombies gain menace to get in for an alpha strike. Open the Graves might be one of the best cards in the deck, because whenever one of our non-token creatures dies, we get a 2/2 black zombie creature token to replace it. That about wraps it up. Who would have thought that a Kindred deck that cost $5 would have had so much power and synergy? I didn't even think that was possible, but Josu Vess knew it. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.